Hey, shalom, everyone. Thank you for joining me again. Akoti sister, UTEriKiYah Yehuda. And this is another conversation with my auntie. This time, we're going to talk, we're going to shift gears on a more serious note and talk about the activism side of what she does, Miss Anita Wills, or Ms. Anita Wills. So how about I stop talking and let her talk? Hey, Auntie, welcome back.
Hey, hello everybody. It's good to see you all and to join you again on a call with my niece, UTEriKiYah. UTEriKiYah.
Yeah,
Beautiful name.
it's watchful for y'all, and it just so happened it worked
Yeah.
out with my name. So I know nothing but Abba Yah. So
Yes,
how you been?
I have been well. I've been, hanging in there.
Yeah,
As I
yeah.
mentioned earlier to you, this month is always hard for me and my family uh, because my oldest grandson, Kerry Baxter Jr., was murdered on January the 16th, 2011. So this is the 15th year of his death, and his case went immediately cold and has remained cold.
Mm.
Yeah, but I'm spiritually good. I'm spiritually good.
Sure.
You know.
And that's another reason why I wanted us to talk. And I'm glad that
Hmm.
you were able to avail yourself so
Yeah.
soon. Um, when I saw your video that you had posted
Hmm.
yesterday, and at the time of this recording, what's today? It's the 12th of January.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it definitely, I definitely wanted to make sure we talked about the activism side, and I wasn't aware that this was close to his
Hmm.
15th anniversary. So very
Yeah.
timely conversation that we're going to have, and to
Mhm.
also continue to keep the names of those that have gone on from these tragic means
Yeah.
out, and you're going to share some of those names via your book. But
Hmm.
I know that I know it's a lot to talk about, and I just
Hmm.
appreciate you um, just having the candor to do so. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm sure the activism, or no, I can't even say that. Let me ask you this. Did
Mhm.
you always have that kind of activism in you, or did this um bring all of that about with the situation with Kerry Jr.?
I've always spoken out of what I against what I felt like was going on in my community. Even when I was in Reading and living, and seeing that, like, I don't know if you remember Sonny Black. I remember when he was killed
I heard
in
of him.
Reading, and he was a peer. He was a black man, and he was dating. He was getting ready to marry this wealthy. I think she was prominent. You know, her parents were prominent, and all of a sudden he winds up dead. And the buzz in the community was that he was killed by the KKK, but nobody was ever arrested um, about Sonny's Black's murder, and that was in Reading, and we were trying to rally around having his murder solved, and it's still a cold case. Um, and they were coming in community. arresting and taking the young boys out of the community and putting them in the county jail for little or nothing. And my own brother, Anthony, he was put in the county jail. And when he was in the county jail, he was accosted by some white prisoners who I think threw food at him and called him the N-word. And he just like erupted, and a riot broke out in the county jail. And they sent my brother, he was 17 at the time, they sent him to the Eastern Penitentiary until he was 21. So, so we, this was early on. He was 17 and I was 16 because I'm like a year or so younger than him.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see the and unjust ways that they were prosecuting our people in the community. And then there was a young man, I forgot his name, but he was arrested. He was charged with killing this white boy. He was African American, and they said he killed this white boy, and arrested him, put him in the county jail, and then he was found dead. Nobody has ever been prosecuted for his death. No one. So these were the kind of situations that stayed with me, because it's just hard to keep moving on from those kind of injustices that is going. Those are lynchings. Those are lynchings. They talk about lynchings where in the South, these people were being lynched. These people were being lynched, were murdered.
Yes, it's not always the classic way of the way we think of the word lynching. We always think of that classic. No, it's beyond just the strange fruit, so to speak.
Yeah. And so in my book, A Nation of Flaws, Just Us in a Homeland, I wrote about the lynching that my mother remembered. Well, it wasn't during her time; it was during her mother's time. This man named Zachariah Walker was lynched over by Lucas Steel Mill. Like I could look out my bedroom window and see where they had lynched Zachariah Martin. And my mother would tell me about it, would tell us about it. And she said, yeah, they lynched him and nothing grew there. Nothing grows there.
Yep.
And some people say they see his ghost. But what they did, they called that a lynching. So I wrote about that in A Nation of Flaws, Just Us in the Homeland. I wrote about it. I wrote about it in Pieces of the Quilt, The Mosaic of an African American Family. I wrote about Zachariah, and I got some pushback from some white people that claimed to know my family and stuff, and they were emailing me and asking me why I wrote it like that. Why did I say? Why didn't I make that guy that was killed? See, what happened was Zachariah was over there hanging with some white people. I think they were working together, and he thought my mother said, well, he was supposed to be friends with the sheriff or this deputy or something. They was all friends. They was drunk, and they got into a fight. And Zachariah, somehow or other, the sheriff got shot and killed. And they immediately started dragging Zachariah Walker. And he was arrested and taken to the county jail. And a mob of white people went and dragged him out of the county jail, lynched him, pulled him down, put him on a pyre, and set it on fire, and killed him. And this was the entrance to Lucas Steel Mill. Like my dad, everybody worked in Lucas Steel Mill. It was right across, from where we lived there. There was Lucas Steel. And we had been driving by it. I didn't even know who he was until I started researching and documenting stuff, and I said, wow, they lynched. And my mom said, yeah, they took Coatesville off the map after they did that. But no, but she said they brought, my grandmother said they had like a crowd of white people, not only after Zachariah Martin, but after my grandmother and her people. We're going to lynch all the colored people. That's what they said. These white people, the community they came to, were living in, was our ancestors' land, was the indigenous people, was our native ancestors' land. They're talking about they are going to lynch all these colored people.
Like another Tulsa.
From Europe, brought there to work in the steel mill. Yes, they brought that mentality with them. And so when I wrote about it in my book, then I get this, I remember your family and our people grew up on South Hill. I said, yeah, I remember South Hill. No black people could live up there. Yeah, I remember South Hill. Well, how dare you write this? And you didn't even, and then in your book, you were writing about abolitionists, and you didn't even talk about the Quakers, and the Quakers were this, that, and I said, I wasn't writing about the Quakers. All you people know about the Quakers. What you don't know is that my family, my great grandfathers were in the Civil War out of Lancaster County. That's who I'm writing about. You're no hero. You people were the ones who enslaved and came and took our land. And there were some good ones. But you want me to talk about them over my ancestors and what they were doing to free the slaves that were in the South. It's just so bizarre. It's so interesting how they want to just step into history on top of us, to bury our history and somehow or other put themselves at the center of the historical context of events that took place, and how they're going to tell me how to write about the events that took place. You can't do that.
So that WS mentality, that W supremacy, because we have to be mindful of the terms that we use, unfortunately, and that's the thing too, I know I'm getting shadow banned, so it's like, oh well.
I do too, a lot. And,
but it is what it is. The Most High will let this word get out. Absolutely, they can't do nothing about that though. But
my intention was to uplift the story of Zachariah Walker and what happened to him. That was my intention. It wasn't against the man that wound up, that deputy that wound up deceased. They happened to be friends. And my mom said they were over there drinking and they got into a fight. And somehow or other, the deputy, who happened to be white, got, he got pew-pewed. And then they lynched Zachariah Martin. The people that came to lynch them didn't know either one of them. They just wanted to go to a lynching. So.
And didn't even know if he did do it, right?
Yeah, they brought their children. Oh, he wasn't tried. He was arrested. He was just arrested and in the county jail, awaiting, a trial. And they came and pulled him out. But that's the mentality that they brought here from where they came from, because, that's how they settle stuff. And so these are the, people that were brought there, that were immigrants and new to, to the community. And they just wanted to, they needed some excitement. And they brought their children to the lynching. And I think there's postcards of the lynching of Zachariah Martin. In fact, I know because there is a picture of him laying on a burning pyre. And you would have had to be there to have that picture, to draw that picture, or to, you know,
Sure.
he was the only person of color there. So if you have that picture, it's probably on a postcard somewhere,
Mhm.
you know.
Yes. Wow. My.
Hmm.
Ugh. So, so yeah, activism, you basically, it was something that it was prevalent,
Yeah,
it just based on you experiencing it through what you had seen between what happened to
yeah,
family and then what you experienced. Um,
yeah.
and of course, then it took a more personal turn, and even more personal turn, I should say.
Yeah.
And you know, um,
Mm.
if you can speak to some of those details, and of course, if you share what you are led to share about
Yeah.
um, what happened to Kerry Baxter Jr.
Oh, yeah. Let me say this too,
Sure.
that when you were asking about, uh, when Emmett Till was killed,
Mm-hmm.
my brother, at 56, I was born in 1948. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was about 8 years old, and there was a Jet magazine with his picture and his mother. He was in
Yes.
the coffin, and
Yes. Mm-hmm.
my dad and mother did not talk to us about it, but they put that Jet magazine on. We had end tables, and he put it there, and we individually would pick it up, and we saw his face, we saw his mother, we read the article. And I was 8 years old, but we were always reading and asking questions. That's just the kind of household we were raised in. And I thought, they didn't do enough. You know, they didn't do enough. That was the way I felt, like it was so unjust, and to see his face like that.
Sure.
And that was Emmett Till. And
Mm-hmm.
when my brother was 12, Anthony, we had, they don't talk about this. They don't tell you that our schools were segregated too. We went to a segregated school.
Mm-hmm.
Houstonville was a colored school in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. There was several white families going there. Most of them were Jewish. We had Jewish families going there. But the other kids, the ones that lived on what we call White Hill, they were in Christian schools or they were in the Catholic schools. And I'm thinking that the Catholic schools would not allow the Jewish students there to go there, but they were, um, so they had to go to the colored school, which was Houstonville, and so Houstonville, during the time when they were doing this desegregation in the South, they built a brand new middle school in after outside, where we were going to middle school. After we graduated from the sixth grade, we went to South of Brandywine, and it was a brand new school. First time that we had been, we were going to school with white kids, and it wasn't no issue. Nobody was tripping. But my brother Anthony was accused of doing something. This white girl accused him of showing himself or doing something to her, and they took my son, my brother, out of our house at 12 years old and sent him away, all the way outside of Philly, to this place called Kissinger or something like that. It was a farm. They took him and put him in a boarding school, a boys' boarding school. And so and I remember my mother being so depressed, she just crawled in the bed and she cried. She cried. Um, and she was depressed, and the house was dark. It wasn't, full of laughter anymore. And we had already seen our brothers, our older brothers, were in the military. You know, my brother Ron had gone to the military, and George, and Anthony was gone. So within a couple of years, our house was gone. You know, almost all the boys were gone except for Nathan. He was the only one left. And then, you know, within a couple of years, my parents separated and we were moved to Reading. But that's one of the things that I was saying. And when we would go to see him, he was over 50 miles away. And Ron, our brother Ron, when he would come back from the Air Force, we would get in the car and we would go to visit my son, my brother, 50 miles away. And I cannot tell you how depressing that was, how helpless you feel when you're dealing with a system like that was willing to take him. He was always in the upper classes, like the class with for the genius or the gifted. He was the one who was in the gifted class. He was gone. And I said, why didn't they do something? They didn't do enough to keep him here. That I didn't say it out loud. I said it inside of myself, you know. Sure. So when I'm faced with that again, I'm saying, am I doing enough? Did I do enough? That's my activism. That's when my activism kicked in. And for my son, and I think it was March the 30th or something like that, or 31st of 2001. That's when he got involved in that incident. The incident had to do with him. At the time, this is Big Kerry Baxter Jr. He was living in Berkeley with his children, two sons, and you know, his girlfriend. They were all in Berkeley. This incident took place in Oakland. He didn't even live in Oakland. He was at a bar about March the 30th, 2001, and he was accosted by this young man and you know, 3 other young men were with him. You would say a gang, as he sat in the bar. And the one guy was telling him, come on, I need to talk to you. Come on, let's go out and let's go, you know, down the street. So they leave the bar, they cross the roadway, go down the street, almost 2 blocks from the bar. And people, the witnesses said they could see this young man who had asked my son to come out. When somebody gets agitated, they could see his arms moving like he was, you know, really agitated at my son. And then all of a sudden they heard a gunshot. He had shot at my son. And my son, Kerry Sr., pulls out a weapon. He shoots him in the foot. And the kid, well, I call him a kid, but he was like 21. He turns around and he runs back up towards the bar, away from my son. And my son turns around and runs the other way to get away from him. He said, well, I didn't want them, because there were other people there with him shooting at me. But he was the only one that was doing, the kid, the 21-year-old, he was the one that was shooting. The other guys that were with him knew Kerry. Kerry was a friend of their family. They were just standing there watching, you know. Anyway, so then Kerry, he runs down the street away. He goes to his girlfriend's mother's house because that's where they were. And he's running away from the guy that was shooting at him. He didn't even know that there was someone up the street who had been shot until when the police were looking for him, said they were looking for him for murder. And they were saying that his errant bullet hit this man in the chest, like this way, in the heart, and killed him. That's what they were saying. And they arrested Kerry, and they made a big deal of it, you know, because they always make a big deal of arresting African Americans, and they will say it like, you're guilty. You're guilty before you ever go to court if you're a black man. If you're a white man and you're arrested, you're presumed innocent. Okay? So they were, I don't know when they did the investigation or, because there was a series of situations that took place where the person that shot at my son, that started all this, was given a blanket immunity to testify against my son, even though he was on probation up in Merced County. He wasn't even supposed to be in Oakland, but they gave him blanket immunity to testify against my son. And my son was thrown in prison with like $1 million bail, in county jail with like $1 million bail. Had he not been thrown in prison, he would have been working on the Bay Bridge because he was a journey level carpenter. He always worked. He could have, paid for his own attorney. He wouldn't have had to have a public defender, but they didn't want him. They didn't care about this person paying taxes and this voter and this person having any rights. They needed to prove a point. So they put Kerry, they made a big deal of that, gave this person who wasn't even a resident of Alameda County, gave him blanket immunity, paid for his housing. And this guy that did this, Jamal, what was his name? Jamani Jones. He was in and out of the county jail. The whole 2 times my son was there. The whole 2 years my son was there. Jamani Jones was still in Oakland. He was robbing people, assaulting people, beating his wife up. And he would go in jail, and then he would say, my son would say that they brought him in again. And he said, every time he comes in, he says, that's okay. I got immunity. I'm going home. They never kept him but a couple of days, and then they would release him again, because that's what they do with informants. They don't care what the informants do to the community. They can kill somebody, and they're not going to serve any length of time. And if they do get convicted of something, they will move them around, maybe even send them out of state and release them. That's the kind of stuff that this so-called law enforcement does. But anyway, so while Kerry, my son, was in prison, in the county jail, he found out that the public defender was also representing Jamani Jones. And he says to me, Mom, I need to get an attorney.
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How is that even possible when that is a conflict of interest? How can that even be?
That's what he said. He said, Mom, he said, that's a conflict of interest. And he said, I keep bringing it up. And they keep telling me, they keep ignoring me. And it was a conflict of interest. And so Kerry said, Kerry has some money in his account. And he was like, can you come up with something? He said, well, there's this attorney that's coming up here. And he says that he will represent me if we can get $15,000. So I put some money in, Kerry put some money in, his girlfriend put some money in. We came up with $15,000 to pay this attorney, who said they don't even have a case against you. And no, we did not do our due diligence. We should have looked him up and saw that he was being disbarred, even as he was up there, trying to get people.
So he was a crook. He was a hustler, basically.
Yeah, he was doing to Kerry what he had done to other Black clients, taking money and not doing anything. That's what he was doing. That's why he was being disbarred. We didn't know that.
What about the groups, like the justice advocacy type of groups that take on these cases, like say from colleges and things like that? What
Yeah,
about that? Was that ever
yeah.
out there?
They,
You know?
like the Innocence Project, they won't do anything until you are sentenced, until you are found guilty. Then you still got to prove that you are actually innocent.
Mm.
Not, or is it? It's what either
Wait,
actually or factually
I
innocent.
thought they set out to do that. Some of these advocacy groups.
Yeah, no.
Oh, well,
Everybody I called from the NAACP on down did nothing. Did nothing. They did not care. I don't know what they were caring about at that time. This is in 2001, and he wasn't even. He went on trial in 2002. Um,
but
None
it's
of
a
them.
different time now, though, Auntie. You know, we're
Yeah,
living in a whole different time. So,
yeah,
uh, you know, it may be, and since he's been in for a length of time now, it may be
yeah.
time to um
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna get to that. He's up for resentencing. He's up for resentencing. Um, but during this period, though, Richard Hove, who was his attorney, he took the money and he basically didn't do anything. It was not until after Kerry was found guilty, and the jury did not immediately find him guilty. The jury came back and said, "Well, whose testimony should we weigh? Should we weigh the officer's testimony over the defendants?" And the judge said, "Yeah, go back there. The officers are testimony should be weighed over the defendants." The officer was lying. He sat up and lied about my son. He said my son was a member of a gang. There was no such thing as this 35th Avenue gang that this officer was talking about. No such thing. No gang existed. That during the time that they were prosecuting my son, they were filming a documentary about gangs of Oakland. What they wanted to do was make every crime connected to a gang. So they wanted a gang enforcement because you could get federal money. And so they wanted to put Kerry in a gang, but they would not put the one that was testifying against him, the one started everything. They didn't want to put him in a gang because he was a part of their documentary. They were paying him to be in that documentary. And they talked about all these gangs in Oakland, but they were always doing that because they wanted to get to uh, say that they needed more money and they could get federal money from this documentary. They were using it, and the guy, that man, or the sergeant who became a lieutenant, his name was Madeira. He was starring in the movie. He's the one that lied to get Kerry convicted, lied on the stand to get Kerry convicted. Okay? And and Oakland Police Department at that time, there was a lot of racial animosity within the department. So the
because of
guy,
Panthers, is that you saying within the department? Okay.
yeah, because there
Mhm.
was a black lieutenant, Longmire. I think his name was Longmire. He was looking at Jamani Jones as the shooter. And all of a sudden, here comes Madeira, the white officer, and he's looking at my son. He's not looking at Jamani Jones. He's looking at Jamani Jones as an informant, someone they could use. And that's what they were doing. They were using Jamani Jones as an informant against my son and probably against other people. And this is how that department is set up. And my son, by the time that we realized that I realized before my son that there's something wrong with the way that Hove is representing you. He's not doing, he didn't do like, they have a discovery process where you go and you talk to witnesses and
Yes.
stuff. He
Yes.
never did it. He
Gather,
never
yeah,
did.
gather evidence and all of
Yeah,
that. Hmm.
he didn't do anything, and because and Kerry had asked for another, public defender because he didn't want to be on there with Jamani Jones, and I think they were keeping Jamani Jones, charged because they didn't want him to run away or leave or anything. So they still had that to hold over his head. And um, so at the end, during the trial, Jamani was only witness against my son. He had blanket immunity, and also they could not bring up his record or say that he was on probation for a gun charge in Merced County. They were saying he had
Because it was a
never,
different jurisdiction.
no, because he had blanket immunity.
Mm.
The DA had gone up there and told them they would take over Jamani Jones. They needed him to testify in a case. And they released him to the Oakland Police Department. And the Oakland Police Department were taking care of him, paying for his rent and giving him money and for him to come and testify against my son.
Mm.
I don't know why, other than the fact that they just do that with informants. And my son had been asked to be an informant. He said, no, I'm not going to do that because my life won't be worth anything. If I become an informant, I wouldn't be safe in the streets. He said, no. And they said, you're going to be sorry. But this was, years earlier. You don't think that, they're going to, but they do. They write the names down of who they want to get and who they can get to be an informant in our communities. And so, he was after they doctored up everything and kept away the evidence that would have proved his innocence, and plus they knocked all the black jurors off. He was tried by an all-white jury. They knocked all the black jurors off, and they offered him a 40-year plea deal. You agree to 40 years, and we'll and this is the plea deal that he was. Mind you, there was a white man who stalked and killed his wife, beat her to death in front of his children and her mother, dragged her body out and buried her up in the hills in Oakland.
Mm.
And they gave him a plea deal of 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they told my son, no, we'll give you a plea deal of 40 years. And my son said, no, I am not admitting to anything that I didn't do. I'm not signing a plea deal. I didn't even do this crime. I'll take my chances, and we're going to throw the book at you. But this is what they do with our people. This is how they treat our people versus how they're treating these white people. And so he went through the trial. Halfway through the trial, this phony attorney, Richard Hope, asked for $800 more, and he kept asking for more money. He told me, I need more money. He had spent the money, I guess. He sure wasn't spending it on defending. I said, if whatever you need, you ask the court. Ask the court.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kerry had asked the court to assign him another attorney, and they ignored his request.
Wow.
So I don't know if he got more money from the court or not, but he didn't represent Kerry. He was friends with his father. Actually, was a judge. Judge Hove was over the Huey Newton trial in Alameda County. I didn't know that until after the trial. His father and this Judge Horner, who was my son's judge, were friends. had been friends. They all served there. They were all, the DA, her father had been a judge. They were all friends. I didn't hardly, when I went there, the only people of, African Americans I saw were the family of the deceased, the innocent bystander, and our family. Everybody else in that court was white. Everybody. This was in 2003.
Wow.
2002. Everybody. I'm like, where did the black people go? Because I know, there's a whole bunch of black people in Oakland. Why weren't they there? None on the jury. No stenographers, nothing. Everything was lily white in 2001 in Oakland, or 2002 in Oakland.
Wow. I just learned a term today. And I'm assuming it was from Dr. Claude Anderson, who brought out the term convict leasing. I didn't even know that was such a thing.
Yeah.
So once again, this, prison industry is an industry and it's big business,
Right. Right. They knew that, the courts know that Jamani Jones has a serious mental health issues because his mother was a white woman. She had put him up for, he had been raised by his father and his father's family, but he had serious issues, abandonment issues. And I guess they didn't think he would be of any use in court, in the jails. But my son was working in prison almost from the time that he hit the prison. He was working. Also, they want to take you off the street. They don't want you out there, as a journey level carpenter. He's getting ready to open his own business. He could be, he was going to be a master carpenter and have his own business. They don't care about us paying taxes. That's not their issue. Their issue is with our labor being free or reduced.
Controlled labor. That's what,
Yes.
It's still controlled labor.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's it. And they don't want you, these people, their system is an antiquated system, and part of it has to do with them coming from Europe, who runs Europe. Most of the people that run Europe are the Queen of England or the Queen,
it's monarchies.
Always, but even though they have another system, they have this royal family where they have a class system. So they come from a class system, a rigid class system. And they still want to kill King, Harry's, what's her name, his wife. They always after her. They hate her because she's not part of our class, And I'm not talking about the royal family want to hate her. I'm talking about them little peasants, because she stepped in front of them. She's not in a class that's supposed to be moving up ahead of all those other eligible white women waiting to marry Harry,
Yeah. All about the class and the caste, CASTE system.
Yeah. And they talk about they're Christians. These people are not Christians. There's no system in that creator that's under God that is set up like that, where you just show up with a white skin and you're automatically upper class, and you haven't done nothing to prove that to show that you have compassion,
right? You know what they say. Right. Yeah, no.
Yeah, but that jury, the all-white jury, after a week or so, they still didn't want to find Kerry guilty, but he kept sending them back, and they found him guilty of second-degree murder, and he was sentenced under 3 strikes to 66 years to life for something he didn't even do.
Oh, that was his third strike?
Huh?
That was his third strike?
Yeah, because they went back to when he was 18. He had been in trouble as a teenager. And they put a strike on him from when he was 18. But after that, they actually took it away. You know, they removed some of those strikes because if you're under 18, it's if you're under 23, they considered you a youthful offender. So they were not supposed to be charging youthful offenders with a strike if you're under 23. And they had given it that to him. They charged him with attempted murder of Jamani Jones, and they had charged him with a felon in possession of a gun, and they charged him with the second-degree murder of that man.
Sure. So that's the 3 right there in one crime, supposedly, allegedly.
Yeah, 66 years to life. And he would have to serve 33 before he would be eligible for parole.
60. What? That don't see again. This don't make sense. 66 years to life. Like, why not just say life? Like
life is 20. It used to be 20 years, but because they want to, they need
it was per charge.
Yeah, because they need this convict labor. They do it differently when it's a Black person. If you talk about the new, like Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, she talks about that.
Yes, I like her. She got good. Yeah.
And the whole point is to they don't care about breaking up our families, talking about, oh, you don't have no fathers, but you're always threatening us or our men with jail, with prison, for little or nothing, setting them up, taking them out of the household, but taking no responsibility and talking about, oh, look at this, a whole generation raised without fathers. Well, maybe the fathers left because you took them out and you put them in jail or prison, or they left because, they can't get a job
of the welfare,
because you're not hiring,
Yeah, and the welfare system, you know what I mean? Like all of that, that helped to break up the family structure.
And also the Vietnam War. All the guys that I knew that I went to school with in Reading, the young men I knew my age in Coatesville, were in that Vietnam War, were sent away to that Vietnam War. And they never came back. The way that they came back was in body bags or PTSD or injured because they were on the front lines.
Or they were married to, typically they might have married somebody that were over in the other country. They married outside of our family dynamic. So that was part of the breakup as well. So
and so when they came back like that, it's hard to hold a marriage together. The ones that I knew who were married, their marriage didn't last. They came back changed. They weren't the same person that you married.
Sure.
That was so a lot. Like my son, he says a lot of the people I see are from the Vietnam War, Mom. They have these people. I'm 79. So how old are these prisoners that you have who were in the Vietnam War? And he said there's a whole section of them where he is in prison. So they would have to be in their 70s. What did they do? And the wars are broke our men.
Yes.
The wars, the imprisoning them, incarcerating them for little or nothing, and taking them out of the family. And when I was in Chester County, I met people, white people, who were sentenced to, jail, and they would allow them to work, to keep a job. Even though they were in jail, they were allowed to, in fact, they were encouraged to get a job. But I didn't know any Black men that had that privilege.
Mm.
None. You work in the jail or you work for a prison industry, there's no way that we're going to let you leave here for 8 hours and then come back and, and then trust that you'll come back to the prison. That was
Mm-hmm.
not, and, and
I mean, I've known people that had work
mhm,
release. It's few and
yeah,
far between, I'm sure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And they ended it because one of the white guys that they had on work release went and killed his wife or ex-wife or something, went and
Mm.
killed a woman. And so everybody was punished because of what this guy did. They ended the work release program because of
Sure.
what one guy did,
Mm.
who they were supposed to be monitoring.
So let's talk about the
Hmm.
the stories. Some of the, if you
Hmm.
can highlight some of the stories of the people in your book. I know you mentioned several
Hmm.
in your
Yeah.
video that you released, and I will, Yah willing, I will link it in the description so
Oh,
you
okay.
all check that out. But
Yeah.
if you have some other stories, that
Hmm.
were, because I know I don't want to assume that's primarily um, in stories from California. If there's
Yeah.
other stories that we may not be privy to that happen throughout the country,
Yeah.
other than the more well-known stories, if you can talk
Mhm.
about some of that as well, so we continue
Yeah.
to keep names in the forefront.
Yeah. One of the ones I want to talk about is because hers was unsolved. And I have been, talking to her mother. Her mother is a friend online. Her name is Matrice Richardson.
Okay. Oh, and please
Oh, here she is. Yeah.
make sure you hold up the cover of the book, so when we're finished
Yeah.
too, so as well, so we can everybody can take a look at that.
Hmm. So this is the book, A Nation of Flaws, Just Us in the Homeland.
There's a
And
little bit of, can you
mhm,
hold it up again? It was the light was reflecting on the title. There we go.
yeah,
Okay, there we go. A Nation
and
of Flaws, Just Us in the Homeland.
yeah,
And that's available through what
Amazon,
outlets?
yeah, Amazon or Barnes and Noble. If they want to sign copies, they can, contact me. You can,
Okay,
put my email address.
sure.
Um, but the one of these that stuck out, like the women stick out for you. Besides the fact that my grandson being murdered, this woman, this young lady, her name was Matrice Richardson, and hers has not been solved. Her murder has not been solved. Um,
And is that spelled like Patrice, but with an M as in Mary? Like Matrice, Matrice?
Yeah, Matrice Richardson,
Okay.
and Matrice LaVon Richardson was a 24-year-old African American woman who went missing um, after being released from a California jail on September the 16th, 2009. Her remains were found 11 months later on August the 9th, 2010. She was reported as acting erratic at Godfrey's restaurant in Malibu when she could not pay her check. The restaurant manager called the sheriff's department and she was arrested. However, instead of holding her on a 5150 because she had mental health issues, she was released with no car, cell phone, ID, or wallet. Before she was released, her mother Latrice Sutton, told them she would pick Matrice up in the morning. Deputies from the Malibu Lost Hills Sheriff's Department responded and took Richardson into custody after a search of her car turned up a small amount of marijuana. Richardson was arrested on that charge along with defrauding an innkeeper. She was booked into the jail facility around 10 p.m. at the night of September 16th and released at 12:38 the morning of September the 17th at 6:30 a.m. Lost Hills received a call from Bill Smith, a retired KTLA reporter. Smith lived in Monte, a community of horse properties and private hiking trails about 6 miles west of the Malibu Canyon station. And he reported that they had a prowler walking around, although the backyard here, through the backyard here, but we don't know what the situation was. Smith told the dispatcher that was the last sighting of Matrice before her remains were found. There were supposed sightings of Matrice, but her mother, Latrice Sutton, was skeptical of the sightings, particularly one in Las Vegas. She always believed that her daughter was not far from where she went missing, and she was right. If a law enforcement officer determines that an arrestee is mentally unstable, he is allowed to detain the person as a possible 5150. This is the official code for an individual who poses a danger to oneself or others. In such a scenario, the officer will either put the arrestee on a watch, command, or hold for greater scrutiny, or if necessary, send him or her to a facility for a 72-hour psychological evaluation. Both instances call for extra time and paperwork or even a trip to a hospital. The arresting deputy, Laverio, did not mention any unusual behavior or odd statements in the arrest report. Matrice was charged with defrauding an innkeeper in possession of marijuana. Her car, which she had driven to the restaurant, was impounded by the sheriff's department, and she was unable to retrieve it. She had no money or credit cards on her when she left the sheriff's custody. The family maintains that it is quite possible Richardson could have been having a mental health crisis and that sheriff's department employees were negligent. And deputies made no notation regarding her behavior in the official record at the time of her arrest, even though staff members at Jeffrey specifically mentioned her erratic behavior. There appears to be a disturbing trend of gaps in credibility and omissions from the official record in many of the cases where a Black person dies in police custody. Richardson's family says the sheriff's department was and continues to be uncooperative in communicating with them about the status of their investigation. That investigation would eventually be kicked to the LAPD, according to Richardson's family, because Richardson was a resident of Los Angeles, even though her disappearance occurred in Malibu. And this whole situation with her, the whole time that she was gone, they were gaslighting the family and giving them different stories. But some of the more egregious conduct by the sheriff's department includes the refusal to release video documentation of her leaving the Lost Hills Sheriff's Station in the early morning hours of September 17, 2009. Richardson's family repeatedly asked for video evidence from the department, and they were repeatedly told that none existed. Eventually, Tom Martin, the captain in the Lost Hills Sheriff's Department, admitted that not only did video exist, but also that he had been in possession of said video the entire time. The video that Richardson's family saw showed the young woman leaving by herself. The video also showed a Lost Hills deputy, Ismael Rodriguez, leaving the station approximately 2 minutes after Richardson. At that time, Martin had stated that no deputies were at the Lost Hills station while Richardson was in custody. Deputy Rodriguez, who is of this date, has not provided an accounting of his activities during the morning of Richardson's arrest and exit from the station, and so subsequently transferred from the Lost Hills station. And her father said these people need to be exposed for what they are, and people need to see just what kind of officials we have saying they're protecting us, and they're not, said Michael Richardson, the father of Matrice. This has been, he's been, this has been sitting, and it's gotten hard, he continued. But if you step in it, it will start to stink again. I want it to start stinking again, her father said. Her story was featured on Disappeared on Monday, November the 20th, 2012 on the ID channel. And there is hope for justice in Matrice Richardson's death, as the statute of limitations on murder does not run out. And so, yeah, her body was found, her bones were found, her skeletal remains were found. And they didn't really make a determination of as to how she died.
You know, just in hearing this story yet again, it's that situation where the protection, you know, what and I can't remember the term right now, but they protect their own, you know, the ones that are to be protecting and serving, they protect their own, you know. And that's what this sounds like. Another one of those kind of scenarios, you know, where the gaslighting was happening to protect their own. It just reminds me of that situation with and of course it's not related to the police or anything, but the Thompson the Thompson girl, young lady out of Maryland that they had found. Something, her name started with a D, but I can't recall. I don't want to Darica or something like that. I don't want to mess it up, but it just reminds me. Excuse me?
Was this lately?
Yes, yeah. It's probably close to almost now. Dakara, that's it, Dakara Thompson, where they ended up it just reminded me of when you were mentioning about that the man, it sounds like he's Latino and he works for the sheriff's department, leaving shortly after. It reminded me of that young lady and that situation where that undocumented man ended up being the that unalived her, you know.
Yeah. That was and Thompson, that's interesting. I have to ask around because the Thompsons are our cousins. We have cousins who are Thompsons in Maryland and in Lancaster and Coatesville.
I think this was Columbia, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Columbia, Maryland? Or somewhere in that vicinity, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
So that was, you know, and Latrice was a college student. I think she had graduated from college. And she was like an A student. She was brilliant. And she had she was having a breakdown, which often happens, you know, when you're putting so much of yourself into into college. It's really stressful and, you know, so she never got to, you know, she's a brilliant young lady and she never got to use that degree that she worked so hard for. You know, her mother is still heartbroken. Yeah, her mother's on Facebook. I communicate with her. And the other one that really stuck out to me is this is Derek. And the reason that I'm mentioning these people is because there never was any justice. Like for Derek Gaines, his aunt was raising him. She had custody of him and his brother. And on June the 5th, 2012, in South San Francisco, school had just gotten out for the summer. It was 8:30 at night, and he was 15 years old, hanging out with friends. They had been to McDonald's. His aunt, who he lived with, stated, "He called me for a ride, but I wasn't home." They first went to the bus station, but when no bus came, they wandered back towards McDonald's and an ARCO station. A police car was watching them, making Derek look over. The cop swooped into the ARCO station, which was full of people, and asked the young men who they were there. Derek backed off and started to run. The police officer, Joshua Cabillo, hit Derek on the head with his gun. Then they struggled on the ground. Derek was carrying an old gun which didn't have a firing pin. It was an old collector type gun and not visible inside his clothing. It skidded out to the side after he had been knocked down. Then the cop pointed the gun to Gaines' throat and shot him point blank. What they're saying is the gun that he had was over here. There was no threat to that officer. After the gun slid out, he shot him point blank in the throat and killed him. This is what happened. This is what happened. And the witnesses say the gun wasn't near enough to have been a threat. And Dolores Piper, his aunt, and she's a friend of mine too, says that Gaines had been writing rap songs, and she believes the gun may have been a prop. And Derek never had a chance, Piper said. He was a small young man, 5 feet 5 inches, 135 pounds, not a threatening stature. She described how a gentleman who was trained in CPR offered no help, but Cabillo refused to allow it, offered to help, but Cabillo refused to allow it, attempting CPR himself instead. And he was probably killing him, like pressing on the chest and making the blood go faster to kill him. Derek was taken to the San Francisco General Hospital, where they went to great lengths to save him. They found a wound in his neck and his lower back. So he was shot more than once, implying that racial profiling was the only reason they were stopped in the first place. His aunt, Dolores Piper, stated, "The family wants people to understand that they don't condone the risky behavior by carrying a useless weapon. But the crux of the issue is that those boys were bothered at all." He was in the eighth grade. And there was an extensive investigation, including recreation of the scene at the service station. The conclusion was that it was a justified shooting. Officer Cabillo was part of a special neighborhood response team, a police unit aimed at combating gang violence in the neighborhood, which sounds similar to what was going on in Oakland. They were all doing that, trying to get federal money.
That so-called neighborhood watch. They're going wrong. The extension of neighborhood watch, I should say. Well, can you, before we wrap things up here, because we were talking before we got on about the young man that was also unalived in Minnesota, from
Los Angeles.
So I didn't watch that. I didn't watch that story, but so you have a little more detail on it than I do. But yes, let's talk about this young melanated man and what happened with him with this off duty.
Yes, my heart goes out to Keith Porter.
Yes.
He was 43 years old, and he was a father. And like most of us, or many of us, he was celebrating the New Year. And a lot of people, when they're celebrating the New Year, they shoot a gun in the air or shoot a bullet in the air or whatever. You can hear it, like where I live, and a community on the outskirts of I live in Hayward, but it's like on the outskirts of Hayward. There's the gun club or something up there, and they're always shooting. But around, New Year's Eve, you can just all kinds of, shooting is going on. And he was, he shot his gun up. Was it a gun or a rifle or whatever it was, up in the air. Just shot a bullet. It was New Year's. And his off-duty officer heard the shot, or either he was sitting there watching him. We don't know. This is an ICE officer, right? And they don't even wear badges. They don't even don't want to show you ID. They don't want to show you proof that they're even an ICE officer.
They don't have to.
So we're saying, oh, it was an off-duty ICE officer, but that's what the media say. But the media lies so much. How do we know? How do we know? And
because they want to stir stuff up, like a lot of this is to stir up the latest sea war, so to speak. But I'll let you continue.
Yeah. So the guy goes over there and he says there was a scuffle, but people are saying that he just went over there and shot the man. He didn't even identify himself. That's what I'm hearing. He didn't even identify himself until after the dude was dead. And then he said, oh, I'm an ICE officer. Do you know that ICE means you're here to, police immigrants, to, see if somebody's here legally or illegally. You're not here to shoot people on the streets on New Year's Day, to kill fathers, sons, So his name is Keith Porter, 43 years old, a brother. And because of the way the media handles, it's not because the community didn't care, the way that the community handled it. Renee Nicole Good, she's 37, she's in Minnesota. Minnesota was on high alert, and they were already like, they were on high alert for ICE, because ICE is up there banging on anybody's door, not just someone who is an immigrant, everybody's door. So she's coming out, out the driveway, going away from this person. He shoots her 3 times and then calls her effing bitch. Don't that tell you right there that he was, gunning for this woman? He didn't like the way she talked to him.
Well, somebody was saying that, word is that she should have complied rather than got away, like left, so that she should have. But one thing that I will say about that is, I just see people are moving in fear because they don't know what to expect with ICE, because of what's happening with them. It's like no holds barred. They're taking everybody. It doesn't matter what you're saying.
It don't matter.
So people are with a level of fear because of that. So what do? You're trying to just get out the way, and it doesn't matter. Like,
because before Trump ever said that he was putting all these ICE people out, my grandson was down, him and his girlfriend, they were, down there visiting his, some of his people that live in that area. They were in Burbank, which is like a wealthy suburb of Los Angeles. And he had pulled up to a gas station. He's sitting at the gas station and the police surround him. And what are you doing here? Roll down your window. Where's your ID?
Like they used to do us when we weren't in neighborhoods that we should have been, right?
Yeah, he said I wasn't even in a neighborhood. He said I was at the gas station. He said I pulled up here to get gas. What's up? What's up? And he said, and they were like, not telling them why they were trying to detain him. He said, I don't have no warrants. I don't have no reason for you to be detaining me. How are you going to detain me? I'm not even driving. I'm sitting here in the gas station getting gas. they're banging on the window where his girlfriend's on the passenger side. They're banging on the window. And I'm thinking, later I thought about it and I said, well, maybe they thought she was Hispanic because she is kind of light skinned. Oh, where's your ID? Where's this, that, and the other? And Kimani was like, I don't have no papers on me. I don't have no reason for you to be, asking me this information. Why are you here? What do you want? Well, what are you doing down here? What are you doing here? He said it's on the weekend. I'm off from work and I'm riding around in California, visiting my relatives. That's what I'm doing here. And he started taping. So I have the tape of that, of them harassing him and then backing off and leaving him alone. It's just trying to see if they could get something started, an incident started. And these are the Burbank police. This wasn't even ICE. It was the Burbank police.
And this was recently?
This was just before the Altadena fire. The fires that were in Los Angeles around that time. It wasn't that recent. But
Okay.
they were, but what I'm saying was this was even before ICE. But Trump was president at the time it was going on.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they was like, they already know we can do what we want to. And nobody's, they were thinking that. But now Minnesota and who else? Chicago and some other states are saying, oh, no, you're not, if you come over here and commit a crime, ICE, we're going to arrest you and you're going to be tried in state court. Trump may give you immunity for the federal courts, but here you're going to be tried in state court. So this is what they're looking into the situation with what happened with Keith Porter and also Renee Nicole Good. Now, that we know his name, he was 43 years old. His daughter and his parents are talking about, who he was. And because they have already been talking negatively about him, about he was not, he's a narrative.
It's a narrative to put them out there. It's all about justification,
Yes.
Yeah. But once again, our lives still mean nothing to some people.
Right.
We're still 3/4 of a human, right?
Yeah.
And in the grand scheme of some of these people, in their minds. But little do they know.
Twisted, warped minds. But
we are royalty. Little do they know. They really don't know. But they're going to find out.
They are, they get people like the people who killed Martin Luther King. They hire people to kill. They don't do it themselves. They're cowards. They don't want that blood on their hands, but they will hire someone to do it. They hired someone to kill Malcolm X. They are cowards. They set up policies.
I actually saw that in a documentary where it was literally the actor Woody Harrelson, his dad was one of the hitmen. So I was like for real,
Yeah.
But you can become a huge actor because you got
and he doesn't deal with his father though. He's I don't know if he made up with him or whatever, but he was saying that he spent much of my childhood in prison, and he does talk about that, about who his father was, and he said, "I'm not that man."
Okay, I just thought that was interesting when I saw that, and what was funny with that documentary was it took somebody, I believe the man was British, that made this documentary and brought out a whole lot of truth. I don't believe it would have gotten as far as it did with all that truth coming out had it been someone from this country. So
right. Yeah, they get to tell that story, and And another thing that I want to say, and I know is you know, people get so triggered, but this happened to us after my grandson was murdered. They asked his mother to sign a thing so they could take his organs, and she did. They took his organs, took his brain. When he was laying in the casket, he looked like Frankenstein. His head was, they didn't even sew him up properly. You know, they just desecrated my grandson's body. And she was, you know, like not in a right mind to even for them to ask such a thing of her.
Was it about money? Was it, you know, money?
No, I don't think they paid her anything. She was just like, he's, you know, in her mind, I guess he's like, well, he's deceased. He won't feel nothing. You know,
my goodness.
Yeah, I would have, when she told me that, it was like, tell me that you did not agree to that. She said, well,
when this is what they're doing too. Oh my, you just bought this thing. And,
the melanin.
This is literally what they're doing.
When I'm telling you about all these unsolved murders of our young Black men and women in Oakland, they're under 25 years old. I bet you their organs are gone. I bet you their organs are gone.
I didn't even think about that, Auntie, till you just brought it up. You know, because your mind, like, whose mind wants to instantly go there? You know.
Yeah.
But
yeah. We used to ride around with the organ donors cards. They would have you know, we signed organ donors cards. So if they find
I was one at one time, you know, like
I was too.
What was I thinking?
And I said, wait a minute, because these people be pulling us over all the time. They be done shot and killed us and taking our organs and then telling our people.
Yeah, I got that up off of there real quick. I was like, no.
I don't trust them. No, don't give them. And then they got stuff online. I kid you not. I don't know if it's real. You know, it's social media where these people are drinking melanin tea. They're making melanin tea, white people, and drinking it. I don't know if it's real, but I saw it on
it would not even surprise me because what is that book? And I'm going to read it. The Delectable Negro. Somebody wrote a book, you know, and this was really happening.
It's called The Delectable. Oh, I have to.
Oh my goodness! Yes, I believe somebody did a reading of it on YouTube. Yeah, The Delectable Negro, and this is what they were doing. Like they were putting our body on a table, and we were that main course type of thing. Yeah, that's a real thing.
I heard, and they said
and still happening, by the way.
Yeah. But I remember they said, bring us the head of Pancho Villa, and someone had said that they wanted that brain, they wanted to eat the brain or something. That's what they were saying, and I'm like, I just
everybody ain't human. Everybody ain't human out in these parts. I'm telling you, we ain't there. Yeah. My. But anyway, we go. The Delectable Negro.
What has God wrought? What do they say? What has God? I don't know if it's godly or whatever, but there's some reason why all this is coming out now. And I think that we can't heal until the truth comes out.
It's the time of exposure. That's what I believe. Yes. This is that these things are about to come to fruition more and more. Right. We are going to see justice being served because this is that time where things are getting exposed. The wicked are not going to be able to hide. They're not even going to be able to hide in their bunkers. All of this is coming out, for such a time as this, and it's going to be, we're going to see things that we're going to be like, it's going to be those people that are going to be like, oh my goodness, them, like, it's going to be more and more of that consistently where the hidden in plain sight, yeah, it's going to be really real and true. We are going to see these things, but it's going to be the Most High orchestrating it. So
Yes.
so he can get the glory.
Yes.
Those situations where we least expect, these things are going to happen,
Yeah.
where more of these truths are come out. So we just have to keep the faith and just know that he is in control, and whatever is done in the dark will come to light.
It comes to the light. For real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else, Auntie? Any final
Um,
thoughts before we close?
yes, I wanted to say also that I'm a part of Mothers Against Police Brutality, and Clinton Allen Jr. is the son of the founder. Her name is Colette Flanagan, and they're in Dallas, Texas. And her son was like, his life was taken by a police officer. I think it was 2013. Yeah. And so Mothers Against Police Brutality is an organization that has been very supportive of me. And so I'm a part of other organizations that are supportive of Kerry, my son. Restore Oakland is one of them. Ella Baker Center, Essie Justice Group, All of Us or None. So there are organizations that have come out, have been very supportive of me, who are fighting, just to let let everyone know that there are organizations that are out there working for justice on our behalf and on behalf of our murdered loved ones. Yeah. So I'm good, because they always calling and checking on me.
Good. That's wonderful. Hallelujah. That's
Yes,
amazing. And
yes.
please, Auntie,
Mhm.
also, when you send me that email, please break down these organizations. I want to make sure that I include all of this information in the description, because there may be those that are watching that
Yes,
may need to
need that
connect
support.
to some of these
Yeah,
organizations,
yeah.
or even
Mhm.
in looking into this information
Right.
on a local level for them,
Yeah,
to find resources. So
yeah.
uh,
And tell them to check with Movement for Black Lives. That's a national organization. And if
okay.
you're looking for an organization in your community, contact Movement for Black Lives, and they will, they're like a clearinghouse for organizations. The organizations support them, and they can refer you. They're a good reference point to find, you know, people and find organizations in your community. Movement for Black Lives. Yeah.
Great, great. That's wonderful. Well,
Hmm.
once again, it's just been awesome, speaking to you. And of course, this was heavy,
Yeah.
heavy subject matter, but necessary.
Yeah. But the
Necessary.
more that we talk, the lighter the burden becomes, because we're talking.
Yes.
And where two or more of us are joined, then there am I. And that is
Yeah.
here,
Uh-huh. Hallelujah.
most high.
Yes. So
Thank you.
you're welcome, most certainly.
Hmm.
And y'all willing, as you know, I always put that disclaimer
Yeah.
here. We'll be able to
Yes.
maybe pick up another conversation going back to the
Hmm.
genealogy, addressing
Yeah.
a little bit more about that, because there's so much meat in that. There was so much
Yes. Yes.
answering. I need some of my question answered now too. So all right, so till the next time, I
Okay.
appreciate you all
Okay.
being with us. All right, you take it easy, and
Mhm.
thank you once again, Auntie. It's Anita.
Okay.
Give your channel name one more time, please.
Anita Talks History and Genealogy. It's on YouTube, and it's at We Know Better 622.
All right. Okay. All right. And you're also on FB, Facebook. So
Yeah,
is
and
that
I'm
the
on
same?
Facebook. I'm all over Facebook.
Is it the same handle though?
On Facebook, yeah, I do have Anita Talks History and Genealogy on Facebook, and several other groups. Like I have an authors page on Facebook, and you know,
Okay.
so yeah, I have several.
All right.
Several. Yeah.
Well, you can also search
And
your.
on TikTok too.
What'd you say?
I'm on TikTok. I'm on
Oh,
TikTok too.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Look, you're doing
Mhm.
better than me, Auntie.
Yeah.
Man,
I know.
I can't keep up with all of that. But all right, y'all. Well, you see if you need to do any searches as well. But like I said, I'm gonna
Mhm.
make sure I include the links in the description. And to the next time, to the next
Yes.
conversation with my auntie, you all be well. Shalom. Till the next time.
Shalom, everybody.
Okay, let me there we go. Oops.